Imagine standing at the edge of a busy world, filled with distractions and constant noise, but feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. What if the key to true happiness wasn't in seeking constant companionship, but in learning to embrace the power of solitude? In a world that constantly tells us we need others to feel complete, what if the secret to finding peace lies within ourselves? The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." But how can we understand this concept in our fast-paced, socially connected lives? What if being alone is the answer, not a problem to solve? In today's video, we will explore the joy of being alone and the transformative power of solitude. You'll learn how spending time alone can help you find clarity, strengthen your inner voice, and lead to greater wisdom. We will look at 7 key lessons that will transform the way you view solitude not as loneliness, but as a powerful, empowering state. Before we dive into these lessons, take a moment and think. When was the last time you truly spent time with yourself? In the quiet of your own thoughts, without distractions? Have you ever experienced the deep sense of peace that comes from just being alone? Not in a state of isolation or loneliness, but in a way that nurtures your mind, body, and soul? This video will be different from anything you've watched before. We'll go beyond the typical discussions on solitude and explore how you can embrace your alone time as an opportunity for growth, wisdom, and inner peace. Let's take the journey together and discover how to find joy in your own company. Part 1. Embrace solitude over foolish company. In today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, we're often told that the key to happiness is being surrounded by people, to fill every moment with social activities, to seek constant validation through relationships, and to avoid solitude at all costs. Social media amplifies this idea, bombarding us with images of happy groups, celebrations, and gatherings, making us feel like something is missing if we're not part of the crowd. However, while relationships and connections are undeniably important, there is a deeper truth that often goes unnoticed. Constant external interaction can sometimes obscure our true selves. Buddhism teaches that being selective about our company, and at times choosing solitude, can lead to profound personal growth and inner peace. One of the core lessons in Buddhist practice is that wisdom often arises from within, and we must create the space to hear our inner voice. When we're surrounded by noise, whether in the form of conversations, social media, or the opinions of others, it becomes increasingly difficult to connect with the stillness that allows us to listen to our true needs, desires, and purpose. Example, the story of Tenzin's awakening. To illustrate this, let's look at the story of Tenzin, a young monk who, like many of us, was always surrounded by people. Living in a bustling town, Tenzin spent his days in the company of others monks, lay people, and travelers, each offering their own advice, opinions, and distractions. While he deeply appreciated the wisdom of his teachers, he began to feel a subtle sense of confusion. The constant external noise left little room for his own inner clarity. One day, Tenzin decided to embark on a retreat in the quiet, remote mountains. It was a decision that would change his life forever. When he arrived at the small meditation hut, he found himself completely alone. For the first time, he was far from the distractions of daily life. No voices, no bustling crowds, no social obligations. The silence was deafening at first, but it was also liberating. It was in this solitude that Tenzin was able to truly sit with himself, to listen to the whispers of his own heart. First, Tenzin struggled with the silence. His mind raced with thoughts of past experiences and future worries, and he found it difficult to quiet the chatter in his mind. But as the days passed, he began to realize that the silence held a kind of power he had never known. It allowed him to hear something he had always overlooked: his own inner wisdom. In the absence of external influences, he began to connect deeply with his own truth. In this stillness, he discovered the answers to questions that had once felt too complex to resolve. Tenzin's experience is a powerful reminder that growth doesn't always come from external sources. It often arises from the moments of quiet reflection, when we're not swayed by the opinions or expectations of others. In that space of solitude, we gain clarity, cultivate resilience, and nurture a deeper sense of peace. Why solitude is powerful. Solitude isn't about isolation or loneliness. Rather, it's an opportunity to step away from the noise and distractions of the world and reconnect with our authentic selves. It's in those quiet moments that we can listen to our heart, rediscover our passions, and find answers to questions that have long been buried under the weight of external expectations. Just as Tenzin discovered, it's often in solitude that we unlock the greatest potential for personal growth and transformation. Buddhism teaches us that we must learn to enjoy our own company, to be comfortable with silence, and to recognize that being alone does not equate to being empty. Instead, it's a chance to become fully present with our own thoughts, emotions, and experiences, and to embrace the wisdom that arises from within. So, next time you find yourself tempted to fill the silence with distractions or seek validation from others, remember Tenzin's story. True peace and growth often come not from the company we keep, but from the time we spend alone, allowing ourselves to simply be. Part 2. Spend time alone to know yourself better. As we move through life, we often find ourselves caught in the rush of daily activities, obligations, and relationships. But who are we really? When we strip away all the external influences, spending time alone gives us the rare opportunity to discover who we truly are beneath the surface. Example, the case of Mia's self-discovery. Mia had always been busy. She had a full-time job, a family to care for, and friends who constantly asked for her time. But one day, she decided to take a weekend retreat by herself, without anyone else around. It was challenging at first, as she was used to constant interaction. However, as she sat in meditation, she began to understand her true desires, her strengths, and even her fears. By the end of the weekend, Mia realized that she had been living her life for others, and not for herself. Through introspection, she began to see her true passions and dreams, which had been buried beneath the noise of life. She learned that knowing herself more deeply allowed her to make choices that aligned with her true purpose. Personal insight. This story resonates with me because I've experienced something similar. In my early years, I often felt overwhelmed by the demands of society. I was constantly seeking approval from others, trying to meet expectations that didn't align with my true self. It wasn't until I spent a few months in solitude that I realized the importance of knowing who I truly am. It was during those times of silence that I found the clarity I had been searching for, and it was always within me, just waiting to be discovered. Part 3. Overcoming the fear of being alone. Many people fear being alone because they associate it with loneliness. However, Buddhism teaches us that solitude is not something to fear. Instead, it is an opportunity to face ourselves, find inner peace, and build emotional resilience. In a world where we are constantly surrounded by relationships and the noise of society, the feeling of being alone often makes us anxious and insecure. But if we view solitude from a different perspective, we will realize that it is not an enemy, but rather a companion that helps us grow stronger. In fact, it is only in solitude that we can find the clarity and deep peace that is often impossible to find elsewhere. Example, Ravi's transformation. One story that is particularly thought-provoking is that of Ravi, a successful entrepreneur. Ravi always felt the pressure to be around people because he believed his worth was measured by the attention and validation he received from others. Whenever he found himself alone, he felt as though he was losing his identity and importance. However, after going through a personal crisis, Ravi decided to spend several months living in isolation, completely detached from the outside world. First, he struggled with the silence and the absence of constant feedback from others. But as time passed, Ravi began to see the beauty in solitude. He realized that his worth did not depend on the opinions of others. During those months of living alone, Ravi gradually developed emotional strength. He learned that he didn't need external validation to feel complete. He discovered that true happiness could only be found within himself, not through social recognition or the approval of others. Ravi's story is a clear example of the profound transformation that solitude can bring. Rather than running away from his fear of being alone, Ravi chose to confront it and realized that it was an opportunity for rebirth. It was in solitude that he found strength, freedom, and a sense of completeness he had never experienced before. Discovering our true self. This story also resonates deeply with me. I remember a time in my life when I, too, felt incomplete without the validation of others. I feared being alone because I thought it meant I wasn't important. But as I spent more time in solitude, I realized that not only was I enough, I was whole. When we dare to face solitude, we realize that nothing is missing within us. In fact, it is a liberating realization, a recognition that makes me feel freer and more at peace than ever before. It is an insight that I wish more people could experience. Because once you understand that you are enough, you will no longer fear anything. Buddhism and inner peace. Buddhism teaches us that solitude is not a fear to be avoided, but an opportunity to look within. When we step away from the noise of the external world, we can find peace, tranquility, and a deeper connection to our true selves. In fact, true spiritual strength and wisdom do not come from seeking validation from others, but from understanding that we already have everything we need within our own hearts. So, the next time you feel afraid to face solitude, remember that it is a wonderful opportunity to grow stronger, to find peace, and to realize that you are not lacking anything, you are enough. Part 4. Solitude is a space for self-discovery. Solitude is often misunderstood as a time of isolation or loneliness, but it holds the profound potential to be a space for self-discovery and personal growth. In our busy, interconnected world, we are constantly bombarded with external demands, opinions, and expectations. It can be difficult to truly listen to ourselves when we are always responding to the needs of others. Solitude, however, offers the rare opportunity to step back, tune into our thoughts, desires, and emotions, and discover who we truly are beyond the noise. In solitude, we are not distracted by the judgments or expectations of others, allowing us to peel away the layers of external influence and connect with our most authentic self. It is a space where we can ask ourselves the important questions. What do I truly want from life? What brings me joy? What are my deepest values? These are the questions that we often suppress or forget to ask when we are constantly surrounded by people and obligations. Example, the journey of Anjali's self-awareness. Anjali, a young woman caught in the whirlwind of family expectations and societal pressures, spent most of her life trying to meet the needs of others. She was a dutiful daughter, an ambitious employee, and a loyal friend, but somewhere along the way, she lost sight of her own needs and desires. She was so focused on fulfilling the roles that others had assigned to her that she no longer knew what truly made her happy. After years of feeling overwhelmed by these pressures, Anjali made a bold decision. She took a month-long sabbatical from her demanding job and traveled alone. She felt a sense of guilt at first, wondering if she was being selfish by stepping away from everything. But she quickly realized that this time away was exactly what she needed. As she wandered through new cities and explored unfamiliar landscapes, Anjali began to feel a sense of freedom she had never experienced before. In the silence of solitude, she was finally able to reflect on her life, her choices, and her dreams. During her travels, Anjali rediscovered forgotten passions. She realized how much she missed painting, a hobby she had abandoned years ago because she believed it wasn't practical. She found joy in simple moments of solitude, like sitting in a quiet cafe or hiking through a peaceful forest. She began to understand that true happiness wasn't about pleasing others or meeting external expectations. It was about reconnecting with herself and aligning her life with her own values and desires. Through her journey, Anjali came to understand that solitude was not a punishment or a sign of failure, but rather a gift, provided her with the space to realign her life, to let go of things that no longer served her, and to cultivate a deeper sense of self-awareness. She returned home with a renewed sense of purpose and clarity, ready to pursue her passions and live authentically, not for others, but for herself. Personal insight. Anjali's story resonates deeply with my own journey. There were times in my life when I, too, felt lost and disconnected, unsure of where I was heading or what I truly wanted. I was so caught up in meeting others' expectations and fulfilling obligations that I lost sight of my own dreams and desires. It wasn't until I spent time alone, away from the constant demands of others, that I was able to reconnect with my inner self. During those moments of solitude, I rediscovered what truly mattered to me. I began to see life in a new way, with greater purpose and clarity. I learned to trust myself and my intuition, to listen to my heart instead of constantly seeking validation from others. Solitude became a space where I could align my life with my true values, just as Anjali did. It taught me that the answers to many of life's questions are not found in the noise of the world, but in the quiet of our own hearts. The gift of solitude is one of the most valuable experiences we can have. It allows us to break free from the roles we play and rediscover the person we were always meant to be. In that space, we can uncover our deepest passions, align ourselves with our true purpose, and build a life that reflects who we truly are. Part 5: The Strength of Independence. In Buddhism, self-reliance is a cornerstone of personal growth. The ability to trust yourself and handle life's challenges independently is essential for finding lasting peace. In a world where we are often encouraged to seek validation or solutions from others, Buddhism teaches that the true strength to overcome obstacles lies within ourselves. Self-reliance doesn't mean rejecting help or isolating oneself from the world, but rather learning to trust our own wisdom and inner strength in times of difficulty. Self-reliance is not an overnight achievement, nor is it a rigid mindset. It's a continuous journey of understanding that we have the capacity to navigate life's ups and downs without constantly relying on others to solve our problems. This practice allows us to cultivate inner peace because, when we can stand on our own 2 feet emotionally and mentally, we no longer feel tossed around by external circumstances. Example: the tale of Soren's independence. Soren had always sought comfort in the opinions and advice of others. Whether it was a difficult decision at work, a relationship issue, or even a personal challenge, he would immediately turn to his friends and family for reassurance. While this gave him a temporary sense of security, it often left him feeling uncertain when he didn't have someone to consult. His sense of worth and confidence was closely tied to the feedback he received from the people around him. One day, Soren faced a major life setback. His long-term relationship ended unexpectedly, and he found himself alone, without the support he was so used to. Initially, he panicked. He thought to himself, "How will I get through this without anyone to turn to?" But instead of giving in to his fears, he decided to take a step back and face his emotions without external guidance. During this period of solitude, Soren was forced to dig deep within himself. As he reflected on his past, he began to realize that his strength didn't depend on others' opinions or validation. Slowly, he started to trust his own instincts and make decisions without seeking reassurance. He learned how to manage his emotions, set boundaries, and problem-solve on his own. Over time, Soren discovered that the resilience he thought he lacked was already within him, waiting to be tapped into. By the end of his journey, Soren felt empowered in a way he never had before. He understood that seeking advice from others wasn't wrong, but that his inner wisdom could guide him more effectively than any external voice. He learned to rely on his own judgment, trusting that he had the strength to handle whatever life threw his way. Personal insight. I believe that true independence isn't about shutting others out or becoming emotionally detached, but about understanding that we have the ability to find solutions within ourselves. There was a time in my life when I relied too heavily on others to tell me what was right or wrong. I sought constant validation from friends and family, fearing that I wasn't capable of making the right decisions on my own. This reliance, while it provided temporary comfort, left me feeling insecure and unsure of myself in the long run. It wasn't until I started embracing solitude and trusting my intuition that I began to feel more confident and empowered. I realized that the answers I was seeking were already within me. All I had to do was listen. The more I trusted myself, the clearer life's challenges became, and I was able to navigate them with greater ease. Learning to rely on myself has been one of the most liberating experiences of my life. It's not about rejecting others or becoming isolated. It's about knowing that, no matter what happens, I have the strength and wisdom within to navigate life's difficulties. Self-reliance is about recognizing that we are our own greatest resource and that, with the right mindset, we can handle anything that comes our way. The power of being yourself. As we conclude this exploration into the joy of being alone, remember this: solitude isn't something to fear. It's a space where we can grow, discover our true selves, and find the peace that we've always been searching for. By embracing our individuality, we unlock the power to live a life that is aligned with our true nature. In the end, it's not about the number of people around you, but about the relationship you have with yourself. The joy of being with yourself is one of the greatest gifts Buddhism offers. And once you learn to love your own company, solitude becomes a powerful tool for growth, peace, and joy. What are your thoughts on solitude? Have you ever experienced the joy of being alone? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into the wisdom of Buddhism.